There
Am
we go.
I in the screen?
Yeah, you can see it there.
Oh,
It says we're live.
Oh, we're live. Is that what it looks like over here? That's
Yep.
going to freak me out because it's slightly behind and there's a bit of a delay.
It's very behind, so.
I don't know if anyone's out there, if you can see our lips moving and let us know, like, is it okay?
Yeah, it typically looks this way.
Okay.
Normally, folks, I'm on this end looking at the screen, and there's a delay in the playback and then a delay on our broadcast screen. So Kayla isn't aware of what that normally looks like. Mm-hmm. So hopefully she doesn't pay too much attention to that screen.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Yeah. So today is going to be a little bit different because what we're talking about, what the focus of this live is all about, is about the money mistakes we made in our marriage, and kind of like how that played into my whole weight loss journey, because it's really something I saw more in hindsight than I did at the time. At the time, I thought we're deeply in debt, and that's one problem. Mm-hmm. And then later on, I was like, and I'm overweight, and that's a totally different problem. But really, there was a lot of interplay, I would say, with money problems, just money stress, and weight gain because of all the emotional eating because of the money stress. So in today's live, we're going to talk a little bit about like what that looked like for us, you know, the problems we kind of had in our marriage because of money, and then also the way we were able to kind of get through that. We made a lot of mistakes, but we went through a class called Financial Peace University, which is from Dave Ramsey, and we are leading, starting on Saturday, a Financial Peace University online. It's virtual, so you can certainly click the link. Jay's going to put it in the I thought he was going to put it in the chat. I think it was not.
I had it.
It was not on the clipboard. So it's going to be a very small class. We're just volunteering to lead it. We don't get paid to lead it or anything. But we went through this class almost 10 years ago, and it did make a huge difference in our lives, made our marriage better. If you've got a good marriage, it'll make it great. And if you've got a bad marriage, it'll help it, right? But anyway, if
you've got a great marriage, it'll turn you into marriage counselors.
I don't know about that, but the point is, if right now you are struggling with your weight and you're also stressed about money, and that is the number one cause of divorce in America, is money fights, money problems. So if that's part of your issue, I highly recommend this class. We're going to be, like I said, we're going to be leading this one. It's going to start on Saturday, and it'll be for the next 9 weeks. It's going to be a small group of people, like really small. So we have a couple of slots left. So if you're wanting to sign up, be sure to do so. It's like $129 for the actual class, and it's totally worth the price of admission because it will change your life. It really will. If you go in and you do the things that they say to do, it can really change your life. And the best part is, here's what I found. I did Financial Peace University, and we'll talk about like how we came about it and everything. But the lessons I learned in getting out of debt, so in other words, setting a goal, like just baby stepping your way to it, that is exactly how I lost weight, and that's exactly how I've kept it off. It's just those same lessons that we learned in FPU, Financial Peace University. I applied it to weight loss, and it's been amazing because this time it actually stuck. Like previous to this, nothing ever stuck, but because of the changes in mindset from this class, that is how I attribute a major amount of my success to this class. And so that's why we wanted to lead it, because it made such a big difference in our lives.
Right. And the way that it works real quickly is that it is 9 weeks long, but you watch the main video lesson on your own at home online, and then just join with us for about 40 minutes or an hour on Saturday morning to talk about wins, get encouragement, struggles, helping people understand what was talked about in the lesson, and then coming back again the following week.
Right. Yeah. So if you are currently, like, if you're wondering anything about the class, like what is it like, or, you know, you're just kind of like, if you have questions about that, or if you think, will it be right for my situation, you can pop that in the chat and we'll be happy to answer your questions about that. So with that, we want you to understand just how many mistakes we made with money, because we made a lot of them. And through this process, we've learned so much about ourselves, like with marriage, things that we both came to the marriage in very different financial points. Like I would say on financially speaking, we are kind of the same as far as earning capacity, but it's not like neither one of us came into the marriage with lots of money. Like,
right. Or debt.
He had some student loans, but I was the type of person, I saved my money. Like when I was a kid, I saved up for my first computer. It was like this little monochrome thing. I think it was like $200 and something. I bought it used, and that was when I was 6 years old. Like, so I scraped every penny, and I worked on our farm, and I got the money, and I bought it. And that was just kind of how I was built.
I worked and I spent all my money.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't save any money ever.
Right. Yeah.
Only long enough to be able to go to McDonald's or Taco Bell.
Right. And so that is something that I think that was the first thing we had to understand was basically usually opposites attract. So like how you are with money and how your spouse is with money is probably completely different. And so that's just something to know that like, and it can cause a lot of problems because if you're not communicating well about it, it can lead to some major money fights. Like when we first got married, we had a huge money fight because I
was lending money to a fellow Marine about every 2 weeks, right? Like clockwork. The payday was a couple of days away. He would need $20, and I would say, "Oh, sure, yeah." And I had been doing it before we got married, so it was just like a thing. It was like, yeah, it's Wednesday, so he's gonna need some money. So here we go, and then he'll pay me on Saturday or whenever I saw him next. And it was just a thing that I did, and she didn't like that.
No. And I mean, and again, it went back to we were not communicating. Like, I would get so angry. And in my mind, it was like, we have the same money that this guy has. And so why is it okay for you to just loan money without even like talking to me about it? And that was the first thing we kind of had to learn was when you get married, all the money is all one thing. Like you are declared husband and wife, and the money needs to join just like your entire life needs to join. And I think maybe I got that.
Yeah, so
but he didn't get the memo right away.
So when I said, yeah, but it's my money. I'm the one that joined the Marines. I'm the one that goes to work every day. I'm the one that makes the check. My name is on the check. Yeah. It's my money. That was wrong. Yeah. Not just because she told me it was wrong. But because it was wrong.
Right.
But I just didn't get it.
Yeah. And so, and what the way we worked that one out was basically we realized, or he started to realize that he was not helping this guy. He was not helping him by always bailing him out because that was just making him dependent on our paycheck, you know. So he had to tell somebody no for the first time, maybe in your life.
Maybe in my life.
So
yeah.
we're both kind of people pleasers, or we're getting better at that. But the point is, like, when you are getting control of your money, it's also about learning how to say no. And that was something certainly that I found and that plays big into the weight loss thing, because once you start telling yourself no, with like money, or you tell other people, no, we're not going to spend our money that way, then it's easier to be able to tell yourself no when it comes to, you know, overeating and things like that. It's like, no, I'm not, or with intermittent fasting, no, I'm not going to eat right now. I will eat later, and I have a plan for that. I'm going to eat, you know, tonight at supper, or I'm going to eat starting at 2:00 or whatever. It's about saying no to yourself for the moment, so that later on you can have something better. Same thing with the debt, is learning how to say no right now so that you can have something better later. So,
and you can work up to it gradually.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Just like Yamuna's question about OMAD, right? Get back on it, work up to it gradually. You don't have to go straight back to OMAD, and you don't have to go straight back to not spending any money on anything. You can just start gradually. Right.
So, through our early marriage, I mean, he was deployed to Iraq, and so we had to deal a lot with, I would say, not emotionally like spending money, and like he was in Iraq and I was in California. We did pretty well, but really we started to make bigger money mistakes once he got out of the military. I think we had less structure in our lives. That was one thing. Like when we had a steady, predictable income, it was really easy to say, okay, this money is coming in, and we did pretty good. But once we got out of the military, that's when our income became irregular. So we lived in my parents' basement when he first got out, because we had this plan to flip houses with my parents, and that was right when the not stock market, the housing market crashed.
Right.
So it took us a while. It took like 8 or 9 months to he got a different job so that we could qualify for a mortgage. We got out of my parents' house. We got into our house, and that was a good thing. Like, we were starting to do good things with money, but then life happened again and again. Like, his job, the hours got cut, and we were in an area, it was very rural, so there's not a whole lot of job opportunities. And so
well, also it was 2009, 10, and that's just how the world was at that time.
Yeah, and so money was like always tight. Like, it was just like every Christmas, it was just tight. And I mean, it was just always a stressful kind of thing. And so then when we ended up he got a job working from home, which was actually a really good thing. And it was a place called Leap Force. And so he was doing that, and the money was not fantastic, but it was pretty good. Like, I think
it started, I think, at $12 an hour, and then it moved up to almost 18.
Yeah, and this, was back in
2010.
Yeah, 2010. Yeah. So it was actually a pretty good opportunity. But that's when we made a big mistake, which was we depended on that money, that ability to just earn what felt like an unlimited amount,
right,
to get us into deep debt. And so there's a question, Agatha said, if your spouse basically leaves all the financial things up to you, how can you get them to see it's something we should both be involved in?
That's a great question. You have to tell them that it's important.
Yes.
That you need them.
Yes. Tell them, this is a big burden, and I need you to help me carry it, because it's too much for one. Like, when you are married, it is too much for one person to be carrying all that mental stress. Like, you need to clearly communicate that you want their input, that you need their input, and that you will listen. Because, okay, so let's talk a little bit about that, because, okay, so he is the spender, okay? I am the saver. He is a free spirit, and I'm sometimes a free spirit, but I'm also a nerd. So, like, I love numbers and all this kind of thing. So it makes sense naturally for me to want to kind of control the budget and to control, like the numbers and everything. But I need to have his input, and this is a lesson, and it's been a constant learning between the two of us. Because you can't just say to your spouse, I want you to be a part of this, and then not listen to their input, because that's kind of where I was for a while. It was like, I want you to be a part of this, and I want you to know what I'm about to do, but I really don't want I don't want you to tell me to spend any money, right? But that's the thing. You both need to be rowing the boat in the same direction. And if you sit down and you get on the same page and you say, okay, here's where we want to go, like, and getting clear on that, but then also making it very clear and truly meaning it. When you say to your spouse, I want your input, I need your help with this, they need to believe that you really are going to take their input, that you really are going to listen and work that out. Like, nobody should steamroll in this situation. It's very easy. If you happen to be the person like me who is the numbers person, who is more the saver, it's easy to want to steamroll.
Right. And the way that you can kind of handle that, like, if you're a steamroll type person, is you can handle the setting up of the finances, right? So, and handling the day-to-day, like, you're the person who pays the bills.
Right, yeah. So,
but both of you have to come together on the plan for all the money. The money comes in, and you both need to know where exactly it's going each month. Every time money comes in, there needs to be a plan for all of that. And you both have to be on the same page in order to set up that plan. But then one person can take it over to do the daily doling out.
And whoever has the natural capability, usually there is one person who has the more natural capability with that stuff. I'm a spreadsheet person, like, you know that from my weight tracking spreadsheet, right? Like, I like to track things. I do the initial setting up of the budget every month when we sit down. Like, I'll write it out. I keep track of like the balancing of the checkbook register, which yes, I still do that. Like I keep a separate record than the bank so that I can see like where the money's going. But he is a part of it still. Like, so once I make the budget, we sit down and have a budget meeting together and say, okay, this is this month. And a lot of times there's like stuff I forget. It's like, he'll say like, oh, Elijah's birthday is this month. I'm like, oh, right. Yeah, I forgot about that. Or it's Father's Day this month, or it's Mother's Day this month. There's always different things. So your spouse,
every month is different.
Yeah.
So you can't just set one budget at the beginning of the year and say, okay, this is what we're going to spend every month for the rest of the year.
Right. Yeah.
They're all different. Things come up.
So, but your spouse can get on board, and it is important. I think it has to be a constant communication to them and listening to them. And if they say like, oh, you're better at that than I am.
Whatever you say.
Yeah. Say, that can't work anymore because it's too much. And I need you to be on the same page as me. And it's really important. I think we could be an unstoppable team. And like when you're on the same page, it's incredible. Like how much more you can get done and how much more peace there is in the marriage because you're on the same page.
And a lot of silent resentment can build on both ends. So if your husband wants to spend more money and you don't ever say anything about it because he's not part of the budgeting, or vice versa, something happens along the way, there's a lot of that can just build up and then ends up in one of those big money fights and problems that leads to divorce.
Right. Yeah. And same thing on the other end. If you have, like, if you're the numbers person, but then you kind of just say, whatever, just do whatever you want to do. And then they do go out and spend and you're just kind of silently stewing about it. I've done that. Like, I'm guilty as charged. In the past, I've been very bad about not clearly communicating. Like, when there's an issue, just speak up. Just say, hey, like, we're doing this right now, and like, we need to stop and change course because this isn't going to work. And
if they love you, they'll want to help.
Yeah, I mean, and I would say for the vast majority of people out there, you've got a good mate, right? Like, you got married because you loved each other, and so just coming back together. And like we said, this class is a great way to do that. Like, if you feel like you've kind of like you're not on the same page, this class can be a great way. Attend together and bring your spouse and get on the same page, because again, it is like incredible once you actually get on board. So and we'll tell a little story about that. If anybody else has any questions, please do put them in the chat. So we were in a situation. He was making better money. It wasn't the career he wanted, and we are, I would say, like, creative people, scanners. If you've never read the book, Refuse to Choose by Barbara Sher, I would highly recommend that. Like, we have a lot of interests, like, we just do. And so because of that, it kind of makes career choice kind of a difficult thing.
Right.
And so we always thought we wanted to be farmers. We thought that'll be great. Like, that will use, like, I grew up on a farm, and we thought, well, and also it like takes a lot of different skills. And so maybe that'll be like the perfect thing, because we'll have to work with our hands, but also there's like marketing, and also there's, growing things, which I think still we love all of that stuff. But this opportunity arose to buy some land. And this is where we started making a huge financial mistake. So the land came up for sale, and we could not qualify on our own. So a family member co-signed on this loan. Now, at the time, we thought that he could just make as much money as he wanted. Like, because at the time, up until that point, that was really the way the job was structured. You could just work as many hours as you wanted. And we just thought, we will just work as hard as we can. We'll get all the hours.
Right.
So he was doing that job. We got the loan. And shortly thereafter, I can't remember how long it was, but it was pretty soon thereafter, the hours started to get cut and it started to go away. So that was not good, because we had 2 small kids, and we had this land, and we had our mortgage, because at this point, like, we were still in our house, we had a mortgage, we had this land payment, which was more than our mortgage. And the land was just raw land. There was no farm on it. There was just like trees, and that was it. Like,
right.
There it
wasn't like we bought a working farm.
Right. Yeah. Like, it was
just started making money.
Yeah. It was just raw land. And so, so that was not good. So what ended up happening was, we ended up moving out of our house, and rented our house out in order to try to make these payments, because we could certainly see very quickly we were not going to be able to make ends meet. Like, it just wasn't going to happen. And so that was really scary, because we had 2 small kids at the time, and I suddenly felt like we are failing, and that was really difficult for me.
Yeah. To kind of put it in terms, I think our mortgage and our farm payment combined were just at about $2,000 or maybe
it would have been
$2,000.
Yeah.
And my income was not much more than that per month.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it was very, very tight. Like, we were making maybe about $30,000 a year, maybe. I mean, like, that was like as hard as we could go.
Right.
And so we ended up we moved into my parents' house. So that was really difficult to do mentally, because that just felt like complete failure. Like, he's a Marine.
Right, I was a Marine. We had 2 children.
And the thing is, look, and our family was amazing. Like, he has the best in-laws in the world. I have the best parents in the world. Like, if you've ever...
That says that your parents are fantastic.
Yeah.
Because I have the best in-laws.
Oh, sorry.
And you have the best... We
Right.
both have great in-laws.
We both have, yeah,
and great
sorry,
parents.
that's what I meant. Yes, I didn't mean to try to say my parents are better than your parents. But the point is...
None of them are watching this right now.
No, yeah. But the point is, it was a time where we just started making mistakes. Like, we were just getting ourselves into this big financial mess. And it started just simply with not being intentional anymore, not really making our decisions anymore. It was just kind of like... Once we made one bad one, it led to a series of ever more bad ones.
Yeah.
So we were renting our house out, so we were living with my parents. We were working on my parents' farm in exchange for like living there, which kind of helped my feelings a little bit, but it was just like, but then because the farm work took up so much time, like, we really didn't have money coming in otherwise. It was just like, this takes up all of our time. And we were trying to come up with like how to get the land producing something, and which led to family members volunteering their time, their equipment, and like us meanwhile going into deeper and deeper debt to these people who were doing this work for us. And so we were going to put blackberries in the land. We ended up like planting blackberries, but that was going to be several years before those would produce. Like, it's not like you just put blackberries in the ground in the next few months you're going to have a crop of blackberries.
Nice?
It would be great, but that's not how it works. So we started to see eventually, like, we've made a huge mistake, like really, really big mistake. We didn't know how to get out of it, what to do. Meanwhile, I get pregnant with child number 3. And at that point we saw like, we can't, this is like, we've messed up. And
we're
also,
adults and we're not adulting.
Right, yeah, we were not
That's what it felt
adulting.
like.
Yeah. And around the same time, so all this stuff happened all at once. My brother-in-law, his brother, said, "Hey, have you guys heard about this Dave Ramsey guy?" And I mean, obviously Anthony had seen just how far in the hole we were, and and was trying to, I think, provide some help. And we're like, "No, who's that?" And I said, "I think I saw him on Oprah," and I had seen him on Oprah years ago. And he said, he's this guy, and he says personal finance is about 20% head knowledge and 80% behavior. So in other words, it's not that you don't know how to, like, deal with money. Everybody kind of understands, don't spend more than you make. But it really comes down to behaving well with money. And we were just not behaving well with money. Like, when I really got honest with myself, because for a while there, I think I was kind of in like victim mentality mode, right? It was just like, I don't know. I felt like it's all out of our control and we have no part in it. Like, we can't help it. All these things just kind of went wrong. Like, his hours got cut and that wasn't our fault and nothing's working out. And it was just kind of like this powerlessness.
And then we followed a bunch of shoulds that we felt like, well, we should continue. We're already here. We should continue. Of course, we bought the land, so we should clear the land. Right. And now we've cleared the land, so we should put blackberries on it and we should drill a well. All those shoulds, instead of saying, wait a minute. Right, yeah. Maybe we shouldn't.
Maybe we should not, yeah. So what we ended up doing, like, I started reading this book called The Total Money Makeover, And as I'm reading, I'm like, oh my gosh, so Dave Ramsey. He's a guy who was a millionaire by the time he was like 20 something, and he had a bunch of real estate, and he had it all like commercial notes. And what happened was his bank got sold to a different bank, and because it's commercial loans, the banks have a lot more, leeway with what they can do, and they can just call your note at any time. For any reason, if they just get uncomfortable. So what happened is this other bank looked at the loans and said, hey, this 20-year-old kid has like millions of dollars in real estate. Let's call the notes. So progressively, what happened was one loan after another got called. He went into bankruptcy, lost everything. But then because of that, decided to never, ever, ever be in debt again, and started what eventually became Financial Peace University. He wanted to teach other people how to get out of debt and how to avoid those same things, like the money problems and everything that plague so much of America. So much of America is living paycheck to paycheck.
It's like 75%.
78,
78%.
I think, percent of people are living paycheck to paycheck. People are just stressed out about money, and it's the leading cause of divorce is money fights and money problems. So we started, I read the book, and I'm like reading it out loud to him, like, oh my gosh, we're doing this. Like, us. We had a commercial loan. That was the thing. Like, there was a balloon that was going to come due in like 3 years, right?
3 years.
3 years. And so I started to panic. I had not really understood what we were getting into. Like, I really just kind of threw my hands up and said, oh, well, the bank's letting us do it, so it must not be bad. But once,
I didn't understand what a balloon payment was. We found out what it was. I didn't understand what it was. But at the end of that 3-year term, the bank says, okay, now pay us all of the money or refinance it.
Right.
We're like, well, we knew we weren't going to be able to pay them all the money.
Right.
And we didn't know if we would be able to refinance it because we had a cosigner on the first one.
Well, and this was a crazy time for banking too. I mean, this is, when the housing market was going ridiculously badly and like it was just not good. So what ended up happening was the first thing we figured out, because we were expecting our third child, that was really, I think, the catalyst. We said, we must move out of our parents' house. We must get back into our own house. And at that time, the renters that we had in there, they were about to buy their house. So when the lease was over, they just moved out. And so we moved back home, and we attended Financial Peace University. And that was when the big turnaround happened for us. We were able to pay off the debt. So we did decide to sell the land. And that was a very difficult thing to do, because we needed to, this was family, basically. I mean, family was so involved. And if you've ever been involved with family and money, it's emotional, and it's not comfortable, I guess is the best word. Like, and I hated owing people money. And so we decided to sell the land, and we had to have that very uncomfortable conversation. And the big lesson I learned from that was have the uncomfortable conversation.
Yeah.
It was something it was probably one of the times I've been the most scared in my life, because we're talking about family members that we love. And I was so afraid that by saying no or making a new decision, it would be like ruining our relationships forever. But what I learned through this process was learning to set up boundaries with family and set up boundaries with your money, and saying, the truth. It makes everything better. It really, like, the relationships that you have, if the person takes away love, because that's what we're all afraid of, is like, if I say no, then they won't love me anymore. But if you say no and then someone doesn't love you anymore, then they loved you for your yes, they didn't love you. And that's from Henry Cloud in Boundaries, and that's a really good book. Like, if you're having money issues, usually there's boundary issues too that you are going to have to deal with. So anyway, we ended up selling the land.
Which just broke even. We
Yeah,
didn't make any money on the land in order to
Really?
go toward the other debt. It was just erasing that.
And we got nothing. Like, all the payments we had put just went towards interest,
Right.
and it was
and
like
all the money that we had put into the well and then to the blackberries and the clearing of the land.
it was all gone. So we started back. like we started our debt snowball, which if you take the class or if you know his baby steps, Dave Ramsey's baby steps, the first thing you do is you get $1,000 in your emergency fund. But the second thing you do, the second baby step, is to pay off all your debts, largest to smallest, or smallest to largest. Sorry. And so that's what we started to do. And that year, so we went from making like 30,000, probably that year before it was even less than that, because we were like just not making any money. We went to make, like, we made $60,000 that year, and that was just working like crazy people. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, we saw that continuing in the way we were going mm-hmm. was not going to benefit anybody in our lives, mm-hmm. certainly not us and our children. And then going forward in that same way was just going to dig a deeper hole. Mm-hmm. So we said, okay, we're making this much money now, but we have this other amount, which was about $30,000 that we owed to family and on a car. And then I think that was just the few little debts mm-hmm. there, but they added up to about $30,000. And we said, okay, we have to figure out a way to get out of this. Mm-hmm. So that's why we decided to just work. Right.
Every spare time that we could work, we found mm-hmm. something to do to get the money.
Yeah. And I was, again, pregnant. By this time I was very pregnant. Like, I was due in July of that year, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. July of that year. And so I worked up until the day I gave birth. I mean, like, I was doing software testing, so I was working from home, but I mean, it was like, we were just working machines. Like, we just worked and worked mm-hmm. and worked and worked and worked. And what we learned from that was, no matter how deeply in debt you are and what your situation is, if you decide to work, just like if you decide you're going to lose weight no matter what, it happens, because you just get so motivated and focused on your mm-hmm. goal, and it happens for you. It's kind of like magic is what it feels like at the time. It's like, when you're not doing the things, it's like, what's the point? But if you say, we're doing this and we're just going to find a way, it happens. Mm-hmm. So
and you're making a decision either way. Mm-hmm. Just like, is it rush things? If you choose not to decide, you've still made a choice. So if you're in debt and you choose not to do something to get out of it, you feel this stress and you're like, but what am I going to do? What am I going to do? You're deciding to continue in that awful place that you're in and probably get further and further and further into it. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to make a decision, you might as well make a good decision to get out of that horrible, stressful place, which will not be comfortable.
Right.
It wasn't comfortable to be working that much all day, every day to get out of debt. But it certainly wasn't comfortable to stay in the debt.
Yeah, choose your discomfort. I think somebody like nowadays says like that. But basically, you can either choose to be miserable, or you can choose the discomfort of like doing mm-hmm. the things that get you outside your comfort zone. But anyway, so we worked really hard. We got out of debt. Since then, we have certainly not been perfect with money.
Yeah. We're humans.
We're humans, and so the reason why we're doing this class, we're volunteering to lead this class, is because we know firsthand, and this is just like a small slice of like the mistakes we made and everything, but we know firsthand what it's like to feel overwhelmed by money, to feel mm-hmm. stressed out about money, and I have certainly seen the link between money stress and overeating and stress eating and all the things, because because money touches everything, right? I mean, if you're and weight touches everything too. Everything touches, but
it's a wheel of life.
It is a wheel of life. But the point is that if you can get these two areas under control at the same time. See, here's the thing. When we were getting out of debt, I was so focused on getting out of debt that I didn't try at all to lose weight. And it was really frustrating, because I would be listening to Dave Ramsey, and so many people, when they were doing their debt-free screams, they would talk about how much weight they lost while they were getting out of debt. I was like, why am I not losing weight? Because I knew that I needed to lose weight, but it didn't happen for me that way. But as I went through Financial Peace University, I learned things about discipline. I learned things about the baby step mentality, the not being perfect. That's really where I started to learn these lessons that I try to like put on this channel, because it's, like those mindset shifts were really the thing that ended up helping me lose those 80 pounds and to keep it off and to not go back and be overweight anymore. So the point is, I think that like right now, if you're having trouble with money, like if you're in debt, if you've got a bunch of student loans, or if you've got credit card bills piling up, or if you've got collectors calling you, then
or you're just living paycheck to paycheck,
or you're just living paycheck to paycheck, and you know that money stress is a thing, then sign up for the class. Again, we've got a few spots left. It's going to be a very like small group type thing. So
why don't we recap it, because people came in after we talked about the class. Yeah. It's Financial Peace University. It's 9 weeks long, or there's 9 lessons. It's all virtual, so even if you're in China, you can still watch it and join the class with us. So you watch the videos on your own, and then every Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern, we're going to get together on a Zoom call and discuss the class and talk about challenges and wins and do some encouragement, all those good things. But it's a small class, so that way you don't have to worry about some big thing and we're all lost and everything. It's just us and you going over those things together. Yeah, so Jim has a question. He says, best financial advice for a single 22-year-old male? Avoid debt. If you are in debt, get out of debt. Right. Because it limits your options. Like whenever you've got payments going out, like so if you've got a car payment and you've got student loan payments, and it's like it can add up to a huge chunk of money that you're just sending out to interest. And interest is like, that money's just gone, Yeah, Jim, let's say you get a job somewhere and you get into debt doing things, making payments on whatever. Then a year and a half down the road, you're like, ugh, this job, this is not what I'm passionate about. I need to make a move. I've got this idea of a business that I want to start, but I can't really do it because I've got these payments that I have to make, and the job that I have, it kind of helps me make these payments. So then you've tethered yourself through the debt to that job, that thing that doesn't fulfill you, makes you unhappy. Actually, 74% of Americans, I heard this stat the other day, 74% of Americans have a job that they realize they could leave, but they won't because they don't like change. And then the others are living paycheck to paycheck, so they can't leave a job that they don't like. So they're stuck. So being free from debt keeps you free to make the changes in your life that you want to make in a quicker interval. Now, you always want to make changes at safe distances. You don't just jump off the dock into the water before the boat's close enough. Right. But although we've done that. Yeah. But I would say, staying out of debt keeps you flexible and free to live your life the way that you want to live it. And that's like our podcast, Living Outside the Box. We talk about all those types of things. And then planning for the future, starting now to plan for the future. And like, so with that, like if you are out of debt already, then start saving now, like save for an emergency fund, like 3 to 6 months of expenses. And then also pile up cash for a house. Like, imagine what it would be like to not have any payments. So like to not have a mortgage payment every month. I mean, that's like the quintessential American thing. I don't know, Jim, if you're in America or not, but I mean, think about if you didn't have that payment every month, like what could you do? How much could you travel? Or what kind of awesome things could you do for charities, like money that you could just give away? But so much of our money here in America is just going to interest. I mean, like look at like an amortization calculator. Amortization. Yeah, see, I always mess up that word. But it's just sickening when you see how much money is just going, like for the first several years, it's just going to interest. You're not paying off any principal for a long time. I think our house, when we had it, was going to end up being like 3 times as much money out. You buy the house for $130,000, and then you look at the amortization schedule and you're like, oh wow, over the next 30 years I'm going to pay $340,000 for this house. Why would I do that? Right. But so Jim, also budgeting. Budgeting sounds like a dirty word. Nobody likes to hear the word budget. Yeah. But if you think of budgeting in a different way, you say, a lot of people think budget and they hear, ugh, that budget tells me that I don't have any money and I can't spend it on anything. But what we learned is that when you budget, it tells you what you can spend money on.
Right. It gives you freedom. Right.
You say, okay, I'm going to set this budget up and go, oh, look, this month I have $200 to spend on some new clothes. Or you could not have a budget and then you could feel bad later on in the month.
Every single purchase.
That you're like, oh man, I keep buying stuff. I can't believe it. Why not give yourself permission at the end of the month to spend that, at the beginning of the month, to spend that money? That's what a budget can do for you.
And speaking as a lady, Jim, when a man knows how to like handle money and that kind of thing is very attractive. It's like women have a security bone, and when the man,
he could be married already.
He said.
Oh, single guy. Sorry, you're not married.
See, I read these things. But yeah, like, so women, if you learn how to handle money now, it will help your wife in the future if you do decide to get married, because it really is a thing with us. Like we're like if we have kids, we want to know that like they are going to be taken care of. And so if your mate starting out, I wish we had taken Financial Peace University when we first got married. That would have been ideal. Because man, we would have just like turned it on, I think, right away. But I'm thankful that we found it when we did. So
we hear a lot of stories on Dave Ramsey's show from people who are either got out of debt or just that before they got married, one of the spouses one of the fiancés was already like on board with staying out of debt, saving money, and then living a life that they want to live, not having to work just so they could stay alive. And they said they made it a contingent, like the other person getting on that same plan was it was contingent on them getting married.
Right.
Like, we are not getting married unless we get on the same page with money.
Yeah, being having the same set of values too. When you do find a mate, that's important too.
Sorry, we went straight to finding a mate. But...
you didn't say that you're trying to find a mate. I was just
Anyway.
But yeah.
Stay out of debt. Live on a budget. Don't spend more than you make, and save for the future.
Give generously too. Yeah.
And come to the Financial Peace University class. It'll teach you so much over the 9 video series, and you'll be like, okay, I see the big picture.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really cool.
Don't go down the same path that everybody else does.
Right. Be weird. It's kind of like with intermittent fasting. It's like be weird. Like don't eat 5 or 6 meals a day and be obese like everyone else. Like. Go out there and eat the food that you need to eat, and that's it. So we're going to be wrapping this up. Again, you want to pop that link in so people have the thing, but you can use our class link, and we will meet at 10 a.m. on Saturdays, Eastern time, 10 a.m. Eastern on Saturdays from this coming Saturday until 9 Saturdays from then. So I think it's at the middle of
October 10th or something like
that. So you can use that link to sign up. Again, it's a free 2-week trial if you want to just get in there, see what it's like.
Yeah, if anything, do the free trial, come in and watch the first lesson so you can see. It's like a 40-minute video.
Yeah.
So you can see who Dave Ramsey is, how it's taught.
How it's affected. I mean, there's a lot of people who have actually done this that are on the video that talk about how it helped their marriage. So
and then you can even come to the first Zoom meeting with us.
And it's not just married people; it's for single people too. It's everybody, and there are every walk of life.
Yeah, I know for certain one of our attendees is single, and she's coming in, and then there's also a married couple who's been married for 50-something years. They're in there, so it's for everybody. So I would say definitely get the free trial.
Yeah.
Come to watch the first video, see if it's something that makes sense to you.
Did we say we'll be meeting on Zoom?
Yeah.
We'll be meeting on Zoom, and it will be like a small group of people. So like probably 8 or so people.
8, 10, somewhere around there.
So just so you know, it's like going to be small, and it's just like that day on Saturday, we're going to just be discussing like what the lesson was about, victories, if you have a victory that week, and then also just stuff, because like money stuff, it's kind of difficult sometimes in America at least to talk about money, but so this creates a space where you can talk about it openly and see that you're not alone, because it can feel kind of lonely when you've messed up. Like it can feel kind of shameful.
Yeah,
that was certainly where we were back in the day. So Yeah. So thank you guys for joining us on this little live, and we look forward to seeing you in the class. Bye.